Hello and welcome back again. We are going to start a new quilt today. Well, it's getting close to July. I know it's not here yet, but before we turn around, it's going to be here. So we are getting ready for that month in working on quilts. And well, I've got one for you today. We are needing to make a quilt. Well, we're not needing to, but we're wanting to. You know the drill. But we are needing to make a door hanger for the shop, and well, I was about to do that, which I'll get to that another day. Instead, I've decided to start this project. This is a quilt for, well, it's patriotic. It can be for year round. It's going to hang in our shop year round, but we're going to get it done well before July so that you guys can have a chance to make it as well. This will be one of the easiest quilts you make. This is how we're going to do it. We've got a fabric. This is Riley Blake's Freedom Garden, and we have all the line at the shop and more coming. But this is one of the prints we're going to use. This is what we're going to use our border in that fabric. But this is one of the prints. And you say, that's really a weird print. Well, it is, but look at it. See how it's stripes of all different prints? We're going to use that to our advantage because we don't really have to do a lot. Sorry, I didn't mean to shake the camera. We are not going to really have to do a whole lot to that. They've already done it for us. And even better, they've already done the rest of it too. Look at this print. See this? We don't have to sew the stars. This is going to look like we have done a whole lot to make this quilt when in fact, we have not. This will be an easy one to put together, and I'm going to show you how. So this panel is, let's see how big it is. It's 4 stars wide by 4 tall. So 16 squares in this one panel. And we're going to cut them apart, and we're going to cut this print apart to make our quilt top. So let's get started. What I have done is I've gone ahead and cut these into the squares. Now all across these, in between all these, was a dotted line. I just cut on that dotted line. There was a little piece that was like a sashing kind of built into it, and I cut that out for this purpose. You could use it for something else. You could use it on this quilt, but for the one I'm making, I'm not using that one right now. It's going in my scrap bin. So I've got my 16 stars, and I've got some of the stripes cut. Now for what I'll need for this quilt, I will need 13 of the stars, and I'll need 12 of the stripes. I will have extras of the stars. I will use them for something else. I might end up making, which is probably what I'll do, making a pillow to go with this quilt because these are too cute not to use. I could also, another option I might do, who knows, I might take the 3 and quilt them and put them this way and put them in a frame hanging in the shop. I don't know. But for right now, we're going to get started. And some of you are probably saying, this is cheating. It is not cheating. In my book, it is not cheating. If it's cheating in your book, whatever. But in my book, it is not cheating. It is just assistance in getting a quilt done quicker. Now, we could have made these stars. If you don't want to get this panel to make these stars, for these stars, then make the stars yourself. They're not hard to make. But it saved me a whole lot of time. No one's going to know it when I finish this quilt that this was a panel, and I'm going to be done in no time. So let's keep going with putting this one together. To get started, I'm going to lay this out and alternate these prints. Also, when you have these prints, you're going to have duplicate of the same stars. I have taken several out that I want to do my either wall hanging or pillows with. So I'll have 3 extras. Is it 3? Yeah, 3 extras. I should have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So you'll end up with 16 blocks. That was 4 by 4, and I'm using 13 and I'm saving 3. So I've got these, and then I've got the stripes coordinating, and I'm going to take one star. Now what you'll want to do is put it, like I'll put it on my design wall over here in a minute, but you'll take one of these, you'll take a stripe print and put it straight up and down, and then you'll put another print here and then another stripe, and then this next row is going to alternate the opposite way. So you'll put the stripe this way, you'll put the star here, you'll put a stripe here, and so on. So I'm going to make it, let's see, I think it's 5 by 5. Yes, mine will be, I have enough here to do 5 across and 5 down. So that's what I'm going to do. Now what I also want to take into account before I start putting these together is I want to, some of them have the lighter backgrounds, some of them have the darker backgrounds. I want to kind of move them around to where all the darks aren't in one corner and all the lights in another corner. So these are all the same, but these prints have a lot of differences to the prints themselves. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to put 5 across, and then I'll just sew them together like this, put right sides together, stitch 1/4 inch, and do that all the way across all 5. So I'm going to get started. I'll take this one and I'll put right sides together right here, and you can pin it or you can just sew it, whichever the case may be for you. I'll pin it to show you, but I don't know that I'll pin it all the way through. We will see. But these blocks, I forgot to tell you this block right here, they measure 10.5 inches. So I will also take these, when you cut these will be 10.5 inch squares. So all of my squares are 10.5 inches. It should be pretty simple to sew all of these together. So I'll get started. Once I sew this one together, I will probably wait to iron all these open at once, but then I've got it looking like this. Then I'm just going to take this one and flip these on top of this one and stitch down this line. When I sew an additional block to the row, I am going to sew it always from the block side, not the strip side, because I'll show you. This right here, this block print, all block prints have a little seam along the edge where I cut on that line, and that should be 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to line my seam down that line, just so I don't have that white strip in my quilt, and because it's easier just to line it up with the sewing machine right there. So I'm going to sew it on that line to make sure that that white is not in the quilt. And it will look like that. So I'm going to keep going and keep adding blocks. I started with a square, the strips, a square, the strips. Now I need another square. And since this one is a stripe, I'm going to pick a floral. That one has a light blue inside. I'm going to try to pick maybe a star, because I don't want it to be similar to this star in prints, and I don't want this to be the same outside. So I'll take this one and I'll lay it, and because there's no up or down on these, you just lay it down there. You don't have to make sure you've got it the right direction or whatever, because it already is. So I'll pin this one. And also, you could do this with a lot of different quilts. There are panels that have like a picture here, and just maybe, I've got one at the shop that has flowers, and there'll be a flower here, flower here, flower here, flower here, and it's got the dotted lines. So you'll cut it on that dotted line, and that particular print doesn't have the strips to go with it or anything. Who cares? You take the flower, and you put a solid block in the center, or some other block in the center, maybe a background print from that same line, and you could easily do a quick quilt just like this. You don't have to use this particular panel set, but this one is great, and it is going to be good for July. So I am all about this one. And given time is not on my side these days, this is helping me out. And also, you need a quick gift for somebody, or you have a veteran in your life that you want to make a quilt for, this would be perfect. You'll see when we get done how pretty it is going to end up. I'm going to keep going, and what I'll do is I've got 5 across, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the next row I will start with this strip and then a star, and I'm going to do the same thing until I get 5 rows like this, and then I'll come back and we'll put them together. I have sewn all my rows together, and I've got them like this so that I didn't get confused of which one I was supposed to start with. I did this. The first one is a stripe. The first one is a star, then there was a stripe, then there was a star, then there was a stripe, then there was a star. So I'm going to put those up here. I'm going to take this first one, and because it's easier to iron this than to iron the whole thing at one time, I didn't want to iron after each seam because it would kill my time production here. So I'm going to iron each one of these now, and then I will piece the rows together. I've got 2 rows ironed, and what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to iron 1 row going to the left and 1 row going to the right. So now I'll take 1 row and lay it on top of the other row. When I iron them one direction and then the other direction, it makes for better nesting of the seams. The seams will lay down better as I'm sewing them. They'll fit together better, and they won't cause a big bulk in that matching seams area. So I'm going to take my fabrics, and I'm going to find that seam, and I'm going to match it up, and then roll it to the top so that I know it's matched. Then I'm going to pin it. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to take this seam and this seam, line them up, roll them up to the top, pin them. I'll do the same thing all the way down this row, and then I'll just stitch this row together. Then I'll do the same thing with the other rows, and by the time we know it, this whole portion of the quilt top will be done. And it has saved us a lot of time with these blocks being done. But remember, you could use a flower block or something. A lot of panels have different sections to them, different blocks. As long as they're all the same size or can be the same size, you could always add a border around it to make it the same size. Then you could do this method with it and have a quilt top in no time. So I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch down this side, and then I'm going to attach all these other rows right here in this same fashion. Now that I've got my rows done and I've sewn them, I'm sewing them together. I'm sewing them together just like I did each block. I'm just lining up those seams and sewing them together. And then when I get to the end, I'll have this quilt top portion done. And I'm almost there. And just like that, we are done with all these blocks. I'm going to show you what we've got, and this is after about an hour. So it's not long to make this at all, which is the good thing. You need a quick hurry gift, but you want it to be something good. Well, this is one. So this is what we've got. And then it's pretty big. What we're going to do now is we're going to put a border around it. And if I were at the shop, because this is patriotic, I would probably pick maybe a white tone on tone with stars or something like that. But I am not at the shop, and I don't feel like driving over to the shop to get this, and it's going to be just as pretty this way. I've got some white fabric over here. I'm just going to put a small white border around it, and then I'll go with the other border that I showed you earlier, that blue floral, and that'll be my bigger, more prominent border. So let's get started with the border. To get started with the border, I've cut some strips that for my border, you can do it whatever size you want, but I wanted mine 2.5 inches wide for the first border going around it. So I've cut some white strips and I've sewn them together on the angle like that, and then I just opened them up, and then I sewed a whole, I think it's 5 strips for this purpose for right now, and then I've sewn them all together, and then I've cut one the width of this quilt. I measured this quilt, and then I cut one strip the same width as this quilt top. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to make a crease right at that middle point. I'm going to do the same thing with this quilt top. I'm going to fold it in half, make a crease, then I'll open it back up, and at that crease I'll meet this crease. So this crease and this crease line up. That's the center of both pieces. Then I'll go from one side to the other and I'll pin it. So I'll pin from the middle to the left and then the middle to the right, and they should work out to just the right length. And once I've pinned going this direction, I'll turn and go the other direction. And then I'm going to sew this on at a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down this side. Then what I'll do is I'll flip it to the other side and do the same thing. Then I'll take another measurement, because this and the piece on the other end is going to make it wider now. So I'll need to remeasure, or to measure the other 2 sides, and then cut those strips accordingly. and sew them on just like I'm sewing this one on. So now I'll take it over to the sewing machine and I'll stitch a 1/4 inch seam down this side. Once I get to this end, I am going to go ahead and iron this open, and then, actually I'll probably just do the other side sewing on first, and then iron them both open so that I can get a true measurement for these two sides. Once these two are sewn on, then I need to do these two sides. So I'm gonna sew this one on just like I did the other one, and then we'll come back. Now I've sewn this side on and I've ironed it down, and I've done the same thing to this side. So I need to do the top and the bottom now. So I'm gonna do it the same way. I've got my piece already measured, and I'm gonna fold it, find the center, and do it the same way as I did those. And then when we come back, we'll have this border done and we'll add another border. For my next border, I've cut my strips at 4.5 inches wide. And so I've cut enough strips to what I think will need to go around it. And then we will put them together like this, just like we did the white border. And then I'll stitch across this angle right here from corner to corner. You can draw a line if it's easier for you, or just go straight across. And cut your thread, and then you'll cut about 1/4 inch, a 1/4 inch outside of your stitch line so that it opens up like that. I'm going to do that with all of these strips, and then we're ready to measure one side and put it on and do the side across from it the same way, and then iron them up open just like we did the white border. This is how we're going to do this border. So we'll do top and bottom, and then left and right, or vice versa. And we'll iron them open before we start doing the other two sides. So if we do top and bottom first, we'll iron those open before we measure and do the other sides, because we want to make sure we get a true measurement. So now I'm ready to measure one of my sides, and then I'll sew it on just like I did the white one. Well, I've got it finished, and this is what it looks like. It's a good throw size. It would be great for like a veteran, for a wheelchair even, for a picnic, lots of different purposes, but it's a good size. If you wanted it bigger, all you'd have to do is add more of the striped units like that, or more of the stars, and keep it going. I think if I did it again, I probably would add another row to each and make it just a tad bit bigger, but it is a pretty good size. I've got in the description below the amount of fabric that I bought, the strips and all that. So we've got all the fabric at the shop, and all the information regarding this is in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and well, happy quilting!